Everybody, what's going on? Fabian for Liberty. So here it is, this chart behind me. I posted the photo of it on my Facebook page the other day. I covered it up for a second here just because it'll be easier for me to explain point by point. I also have all of the articles in front. I mean, literally, there's hundreds of articles about the global economic reset. This is the 7 steps to the global economic reset. First, let me kind of just preface this. Look, I don't toot my own horn. In fact, I think it was like year 3 into me doing videos where I began to talk about, because I would always talk about economics, right, current events. I started talking about my private equity fund, the $100 million plus last year in note sales that we did and in distress sales that we did, looking to surpass that this year. Working with, in that particular business model, you meet a lot of different private equity fund managers, you meet hedge fund managers, some pretty prominent people. Let me first say, not everybody on Wall Street are crooks. And first, not every hedge fund manager in private equity is obviously located in Wall Street. Now, we know the syndicate that is involved in this global economic reset at the highest levels of government are literally criminals that should be thrown in jail, and hopefully that will happen when we have our version, the American Republic's version of Nuremberg trials. But regardless of that, the reason I've been such a strong proponent of saying, you know what, instead of just talking about current events and talking about the problems, I want to talk about actual solutions that individuals, that's why I posted the video that I posted this morning about how you can take the power back, how you can, what you can do to take the power back, and how the power lies with you, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. These 7 steps that I'm about to share, a lot of them have already happened. I covered this with Greg Hunter the other day, who's vetted this. He's, of course, vetted me. That's why he has me on as his real estate go-to guy. I'll tell you what, in dealing with my Chinese business partners, I talked to them about this. This is happening, ladies and gentlemen, right now. And for those that are not ready, don't know when it's going to happen, let me just first say, I don't know the exact date of when it's going to happen. I can tell you that several months back, I was invited to speak at a private conference for 100 ultra uber wealthy people and their hedge fund managers and private equity fund managers breaking down this. I thought this was my theory. And I researched it and I literally have been poring over this for over 2 years now. Okay? It's no longer a theory, it's a fact. Not only can I prove it behind me here now, the stories that I will cover prove it, but now that you know what to look out for, you will prove it to yourself, okay? This was a week-long private conference. I spoke for only 3.5 hours. I was able to record that. If you're interested in that, there's information below on how you can get that recording. My goal, get this message out to as many people as possible, because let me tell you what they're looking to do. George Soros is on record. A bunch of other guys are on record. They want the dollar to fail. And ultimately, whether the dollar fails or not, I can't stop that. I can, however, warn and alarm as many people as possible, because here's what their goal is. Dollar tanks, huge devaluation, leading up, all this debasement leads up to it. Lenin said, you want to control a country, debase the currency. We know this on record, okay? I would recommend you read None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, breaks this down, perfectly breaks this down, okay? So, bottom line is this. When this event happens, they want to enslave as many people as possible. That's why step number 1 to the global economic reset is the U.S. continues to create massive amounts of debt. I should have added here, which is already happening, by the way, that not only they create massive amounts of debt, but they create an entire slave state as well. If you remember yesterday, if you could get through Obama's press conference, I couldn't even get through it. I watch it because obviously I need to track this for, just my investments and, the commentary that I do. He talked about how one of the benefits of the Obamacare legislation has been all of the millions of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, the goal is tens of millions, sign up for Medicaid that couldn't qualify before. Remember, Cloward and Pivens overwhelmed the system. So here's what to look out for. Tell me this isn't already happening. U.S. continues to create massive amount of debt. The Fed continues QE at an unprecedented level. Listen to the Greg Hunter interview that I did. I think he's posting it today or tomorrow. Shocking what the real numbers behind QE are. Because the whole 85 billion, if that, that's bad enough. It's much more than that. And you don't even need to take my word for it. Already on record, we know the Fed's been bailing out banks in Europe. They continue to do this because of the global economic reset. Stocks and housing continue to surge. You will see between now and until this event happens, could be, I don't think it's going to be next month. I think we still have a few more years until this happens because they haven't created enough debt. Okay? Other analysts out there that talk about this say the exact same thing. Step 2. And although this is a 7-step process, parts of pretty much every step are already happening. And again, don't take my word for it. Research it yourself. You'll be able to, you'll either already know because you follow this, or you'll be able to just go and verify all this. More wars. The U.S. will invade Syria, will invade Iran. Regardless of what particularly happens with that, the point is there will be global war. There will be a large-scale war, just like it happened in World War II, just like it happened 5 other times prior to the global economic reset, where the U.S., we are the largest debtor nation now, but I mean it gets really ugly. Think England, after World War II, had just gone through 2 wars in about 30 years, was on the verge of bankruptcy, military totally stretched too thin, the empire was crumbling. Okay? That's happening to us now. Not even, not even 70 years later, ladies and gentlemen. The average world reserve currency status lasts roughly, give or take, 100 years, okay? For us, it's much faster because we've created debt so much faster. Now, Russia, China, the BRICS continue to form a super alliance. Tell me that's not already happening. It's already underway, okay? Here's step number 3, I mean. And this is already happening as well. China continues buying and mining gold at record amounts, okay? Already happening. You could easily verify that. They're buying gold like crazy. Here's a story from a great resource called mineweb.com. China can match U.S. gold reserves in as little as 10 years, okay? They're actually being a little conservative with that number. Why do you think China is buying gold and silver like crazy? Because they want to emerge with the world reserve currency. Here's France 24, totally legitimate news source. China seeks world role for people's money. It's what they call the renminbi, right? Or the yuan is called the people's money. Quoting the article, with deals from London to Singapore, China is seeking a greater role for its yuan currency in global markets to challenge the almighty dollar. The most attention-grabbing reform planned for Shanghai's new free trade zone is free convertibility of the yuan. Remember, last year, the yuan accounted for about 1 to 2% of international trade, right, of total international settlements. In 1 year, it's up to almost 20%. Okay? Do the math. What's that increase? Thousands of percent of increase. Okay? Let me read one more important period. Quoting a top investment analyst in, in London. Policymakers have made new efforts to increase the attraction of the yuan in global markets. He pointed to a deal with Britain in October, allowing London-based institutions to invest directly in China, avoiding the expensive detour via Hong Kong. The article goes on to talk about all the other trade deals going on. We know of all the bilateral trade agreements. So here's what happens. China buys and mines record gold. China expands the yuan trading globally, already happening. Here's the voice of Russia. The Chinese media and the Russian media, for that matter, talking about how the Chinese government, remember, next year, China's military pretty much takes over the government, or they have a much more expanded role in the government. They hate America. They want to have a world reserve currency. They're looking to be the superpower, reclaim really their superpower. I mean, you look throughout the last 5,000 years, China at one point was a major superpower. That's what these guys learn growing up in military history, growing up in their school system, okay? They want to reemerge to that, dawn of a new day, if you will. This video is going to go long because this is a lot of info to break down, so if you're sticking with me here, it's because you understand the importance of this. New York Times. Seeing its own money at risk, China rails at the U.S. Let me just read the first article because it should really drive the point home. Actually, the third article. This is the Chinese news agency, the state-run media. It called for the replacement of the dollar as the world reserve currency. I've been telling you that now for months. Quoting, so that the international community could permanently stay away from the spillover of intensifying domestic political turmoil in the US. This is nothing new. In 2008, China's central banker said he wanted a new super sovereign currency that would, quote, diminish the importance of any individual national currency, not least the dollar. We know the Russian lawmaker who said, let's ditch the dollar, let's ban the dollar. Why? To quote him, because we want the countries that wean themselves away from the dollar now will feel the less hurt as it moves forward. Step number 4. Oh, by the way, this last step here, all those ghost cities that you hear about, and let me be crystal clear here. China has major problems, okay? A hiccup that could stop this, or not a hiccup, a major, something that could majorly stop this is the U.S. basically spreading Islamic terrorists, CIA co-opted Islamic terrorists throughout China. I was speaking to my Chinese business partner the other day. He was telling me it's pretty much unheard of to have Islamic radicals attacking, not only in northern China, but in actually the capital in Beijing. Unheard of. Just doesn't happen. But crime in general is very low in China. Islamic radicals are being radicalized to prevent this very thing from happening, in my opinion. Is why that's happening. So they could pull an Egypt revolution where they flood the country with, U.S.-backed revolutionaries to topple the country. Not only that, they have revolutions, or they have massive demonstrations and people that are, that are sick and tired of the authoritarianism. Every week, every day, there's hundreds of protests and manifestations. What's China doing? 2 things. First, they're pulling back on the one-child policy. Second, they claim they're getting rid of the forced labor camps. Here's the third thing you're not hearing. All those ghost cities that have been bought by real estate investors and what have you, they're going to do government programs to bring in all of the people that live in the country, to bring them in to populate those cities. In the 1920s, the majority of Americans lived out in the country. After the Great Depression, what did we do to cause robust growth? We urbanized the cities. China hasn't done that yet. When they do, it's going to cause massive growth, and it's part of the plan for them to replace a third, if not half, of all the U.S. consumers they sell stuff to, sell it to their own population and give them credit. Step number 4, which is already underway as well, China, along with Russia, keep calling the shots at the UN. Look what happened with the deal in Iran. Look what happened with Syria. Remember, my example of this is this. You're a business, you're in a massive debt to a bank, you want to keep getting money from that bank or whatever, that bank's going to tell you how to run your business. China is beginning to have a greater role in telling America how to run the country. Step number 5 is Russia and other OPEC nations, this has already started, just do your research, call for trading their oil in a new currency, okay? Russia will at one point come out and say, you know what, we don't like the dollar anymore, we don't trust it, it's hurting us. You see some of the beginning signs of that already with that lawmaker that came out. In my opinion, no doubt at the behest of Vladimir Putin, to ditch the dollar, ban the dollar, because they're getting crushed via inflation. Emerging economies are getting crushed. The BRIC nations are getting crushed because of inflation that the U.S. exports to all these countries because of the massive inflation and QE that we're creating. So OPEC and other nations will start to say, hey, we want to maybe trade in other dollars, ditch the dollar, trade in other currencies. Step 5. China expands the role of the yuan internationally. That's already happening. I already went over these articles. Step number 7. China announces new official gold reserves that will shock the investment world and the financial industry. We claim to have 9,000, or I shouldn't say we, the criminal U.S. government claims to have 9,000 tons of gold. It's a total lie. We don't have it. And we don't have it because prominent U.S. senators and members of Congress that have tried to see it can't see it. They can't get in, they get the runaround. We don't have it. Or we would likely show it like a lot of other countries. It's likely been leased out. Remember when Germany asked for their gold back? Oh yeah, we'll get it to you, no problem. It'll take 7 years because we don't have it. Okay, we've leased it out. Remember Canada sold all its gold at the beginning of 2000. We likely sold a lot of it, leased a lot of it out as well. One thing under the table, and I can't prove this, but I can prove all this other stuff, and you can prove it if you do your research. Also, at the conference that I spoke at, this was all discussed. One thing to understand is there's a lot of things behind the scenes happening here. One of them you could likely see is trying to tell the United States, look, give us your gold for some of these T-bills, or we're going to dump the T-bills in the open market because we don't have faith in them anymore. Now, last point, and I'll go. I know I'm running long. After 9/11, two top Chinese generals wrote a book about how to topple the United States. Asymmetric warfare, using economic warfare, terrorism, all kinds of other things. Ladies and gentlemen, the military of China is going to have a greater role next year running the country. Many call it they take over the country. Those are the guys that are taking over. If you're not prepared for the event behind me, and look, I don't even care anymore, right? I don't even, I got to tell you, people that I do business with, people that are, they see these videos and they're like, this guy's crazy, or others that are in the financial industry see it and they're like, he's spot on. I don't even care anymore. My goal, get the message out to as many people. If you're interested in more of that info, you see the web address here at the front. It'll have more information that you can get. A copy of the recording that I gave at this conference. It breaks everything down. It also breaks down the exact things, and I'm not talking food and water storage, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do that. We should all do that. But all the other things that the global elite, or the people that are in the know about this event, including members of Congress, highest level of government officials, are taking right now to prepare for this event. I will keep talking about this event. I will keep telling you and updating you as to what happens with this event as they see it, but now that you know these 7 steps, you can do it yourself. I'm Fabian for Liberty. Would love to hear what you have to say about this. Your comments, your feedback. Thanks for watching. I'm out.